I'm just going to let you guys introduce yourselves. We're in the meeting now, so go ahead and introduce yourselves.
My name is Lonnie Miller. I'm the president of the Alabama Dog Hunters Association. I live in South Alabama, Covington County. Been multi-generational dog hunter. Killed my first deer in front of a pack of dogs at 8 years old at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. And so I basically hunt locally in a club. Been the president of the Dog Hunter Association in Alabama this is my 10th year. And I'll turn it over to Koty.
All right, so I am Koty McCarley. I live in the north part of Alabama, the vice president of the Alabama Dog Hunters Association. I live close to the small town of Hodges, Alabama. We are right on the Marion and Franklin County line, northwest Alabama. And so I grew up with my dad, deer hunting with dogs. And at about the age of 14, unfortunately, our DCNR took away our right or privilege, however you want to say it. They took that away from us here in my home area. So there were several years there growing up through my later teenage years and early 20s when it was hard for me to do that. I couldn't travel like I can now. So nowadays, I do travel in order to keep on hunting with dogs. I hunt a couple of times a year in South Alabama. And then primarily, I am hunting deer with dogs to the west of me over here in the edge of Mississippi, just across the state line. And just kind of in a battle, if you could say it that way, with the state to try to get some things fixed so that maybe someday I can come back home and hunt.
I understand. So what's going on in Alabama?
Well, so I guess in the 80s, dog hunting started, I guess the downfall of dog hunting, the landowners, some of them were getting mad. People, a lot of folks were coming from out of state leasing land. And of course, the typical dog can't read type stuff where the dogs would trespass on other people's property. So in Alabama, they started shutting counties down and restricting counties. And I want to say there's probably somewhere around 3 to 5 permits, different types of permits by county that they use. And 3-4 years ago, they established a standardized permit. And that is what, make a long story short, that's pretty much what they're trying to do now. Is they're saying that we've got a bunch of complaints or whatever, but and they're going to put us all on that permit system, which is really, the permit within itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just not warranted. There shouldn't be any type of restriction or just anything that there should be anything that's restricting us from dog hunting by traditional means and methods for the ones that are doing it right. Now, there is as you know, there's always going to be lawbreakers. There's people that aren't going to want to abide and follow the rules. But we can't stop that. And that's where we're at now. The state 2 weeks ago at their Conservation Advisory Board meeting recommended, one of the cab members recommended the statewide permit system. So that's what it boils down into the nutshell. Koty, you might could enlighten them and expand a little more on that.
Yeah. So the state, I don't know if this came directly from the commissioner or maybe from the Conservation Advisory Board, but the comment has been made that regarding public lands, that if Alabama were to issue the permit system in any county where hunting on public lands is allowed, Alabama says that would do away with the dog deer hunting on those public lands, they say that they cannot issue a permit for the public land. So what me and Lonnie have looked into, and we have both had conversations with the president of the Mississippi Dog Hunters Association, and we know that in Mississippi there is a permit system for public land on the, I think this is pronounced the Homachito National Forest in Mississippi. And so, our thinking is that if Mississippi can do it on national forest land, then so can Alabama. So that's one thing regarding the permit system that we're dealing with. Another thing regarding the permit system that we're dealing with is, let's take closed counties, for example. How is it right to offer this permit system in one county, but you have a county directly south of it, and there are people and there are lands within this county that are closed, and they have lands and they meet every requirement for the current permit system, and yet the DCNR refuses to allow it for this county, even though the county directly north, they do allow it.
Well, that's one problem with permits
So
is they can always tell you at some point that they're just not going to renew the permit.
Correct. That
That's
is
right.
written in their permit. It is written in there that at any time they want to, they can pull the permit.
Yeah, they don't like the color shirt you're wearing that day, so now you don't get a permit. I get that. So, you guys are closer to Texas. I was in Texas in 1990 when they outlawed hunting with dogs in Texas. I was there. I lived there at that time. And have you paid attention to what happened in Texas?
No.
I haven't.
Texas is the biggest commercial hunting state in the union. Texas, I dare say it's $1 billion, not million, $1 billion industry in Texas. And they hunt year round on these outfitter ranches. They hunt deer when it's deer season, but they've imported a bunch of different game that you can hunt year round that aren't covered by their wildlife laws. So it's 24/7, 365 hunting available. You pay your $5,000, come in, sit in a blind, take your animal and go on your way. That's hunting now in Texas. And I've had people say, well, I don't care about high fence operations. If they come in, it's not going to affect me. I own 30 acres. Well, what good's that 30 acres going to do to you when the 10,000 acres next to you is fenced off? 30 acres ain't going to hold a lot of game. You might have a few squirrels in there, but you're not going to have many deer. If you take a couple of them, then you don't have any deer. So, it's going to affect everybody, no matter whether they pay attention or not. And if they want to know what's coming, just look at Texas. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys get back to Alabama. This is your chance. Tell your story, what you want the public to know. So, so we can get the information out there.
So 10 years ago, when I became the president of the association, there was somewhere between 400 and 600 alleged complaints. So what they would do is that if you saw a game warden at the store, they said, hey, Mr. Game Warden, I've got a problem. I live over on such and such road. I've got a problem with dogs. Well, that was a complaint. And back in those days, they knew that all they had to do was make a phone call. Well, when I came on board, we started pushing for validated or substantiated complaints. And that's kind of, we're back. So it took me a couple of years, but we basically did through the Freedom of Information and different things that we did. We're less than 20 complaints, and we've been less than 20 complaints for several years. Now, that doesn't mean that we're walking the chalk line, doing everything 100% correct in every county, but there's always going to be work in there. In Burton, things happen, but that should be the there shouldn't be the norm. It should be a albatross situation. And so, and now we're 2 or 3 years ago, they used to call us and have us meet. If there was a landowner had a problem, they would call me and say, Lonnie, I gave your number as landowner so-and-so. Would you go meet with them and see if you could fix the problem? And you'd be surprised about how many problems we would fix. And they would call me the next year and say, hey, man, I'm glad you came and you took care of our problem. Well, 3 years ago, they stopped doing that. And at the time, I asked Chuck Sykes, the director of Game and Fish, I said, Chuck, why don't y'all stop calling us? Let us work on the problems. Because when you go resolve the problem, there's no record of the problem. Well, since then, it get called anymore. And they're basically just trying to build a case to shut the dog hunting down.
So let me make sure that I heard what I think I heard.
Mm-hmm.
You said that they would call you to go talk with a landowner about a potential problem. And if you went out and resolved the problem, then there was not a problem. So they quit calling you because
there was no record. There would be no record of the problem because we fixed the problem. That's exactly what was said.
So they basically
want documented complaints. What they're looking for.
So they wanted a problem.
But they wanted a problem so they could shut it down or put us on this permit system or whatever they decide to do.
How
many years has it been?
That's a pretty strong statement. That's a pretty strong statement that you were able to resolve problems, so they quit calling you because they wanted the problems.
Right, because they wanted the documentation of the problem.
Well, it'd be easy to document what happened. We had this problem. This is how we resolved it. That's documentation. That's very easy.
Oh yeah, I get it. That's just what I was told. That's the true story right there. That's a fact.
Well, I recently, I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry, but I recently had a issue brought to my attention. Actually, it's an article on the page. It's either published now or it will be published in the next few days, of a young man that had some property leased in eastern North Carolina. One of his neighbors, he had good relations with most of his neighbors, but one of his neighbors, there's always one, complained about the dogs. So he was working with the landowner's representative that he had leased the property from to resolve the issues. And one day he was standing on the property and the landowner's representative was with him and they were watching the dogs work when the landowner representative's phone rang. It was the neighbor that constantly had complaints. And he complained that the dogs were running all over his property. And the landowner representative asked him, said, are you sure it's these dogs? Oh, yes, I'm positive. I'm looking right at them. They're running all over the place. Well, keep in mind, the representative of the landowner was standing on the property with the hunter, and he was looking at the hunter's dogs. So he told the guy, he said, it's not these dogs because I'm looking at them. I'm looking at the GPS. I know where they're at on the GPS, and I'm standing right here on the property. We're at least a mile from you. So then the argument changed to, well, I can hear them. They sound like they're on my property. So he originally said he saw them. He was looking at them right now. And now it's, I can hear them. They sound like they're on my property. I don't know. Half truth's a whole lie.
That's the same stuff that we're combating against as well. It's not necessarily that they're on the property. It's just that they're hearing them. And that's where it goes back to a validated or substantiated complaint. To me, a valid complaint is, Lonnie, your dog is on my property. I've got him in my car. His collar in my hand right here. come get him. That is a complaint. And just so you know, the Alabama Dog Hunter Association is not for my dog being on your land. We're 100% against it. And
Yeah, I am
not
too.
those people that say, we're not those people that say, hey, a dog can't read. None of that. That's wrong. A dog, it's not the dog's responsibility. It's mine to keep him off your land. And our dogs are collar broke or horn broke. And as a general rule, the vast majority of our association have collar broke or horn broke dogs. That meaning that if they cross onto your property, we're running a deer, we tow them, blow a horn or a whistle, they're stopping. And so we go pick them up. So that's what we're about. We are about the ethical, legal dog hunting is what we're for. That's what we represented. Several years ago, we started trying to push what we call the dog encroachment regulation, and we wanted to, I won't say punish the dog hunters, but it's punish the bad actors, and basically implement a fine system that would, it would progressively get worse if you couldn't keep your dogs off someone's property. And because in Alabama, it's the same thing's happening now. The commissioner has the authority, the sole authority, to set a 0-day dog deer season in whatever county. And he's done this, by the way. He will set a 0-day season and shut dog hunting down. And not because everybody's doing it wrong, but because just a few people. And in this case, Talladega County, a few people are not doing right. There's one section of the Talladega National Forest that's doing it wrong, that's doing things they don't need to do, and it's going to it's going to cause the whole state to be under fire now.
So
before it could be shutting the whole system down.
So these people,
in that county.
These people in Talladega National Forest you're talking about that are doing it wrong, are they violating current laws?
Yes.
Are they not enforcing the laws? This is something.
They are not.
This is something I'm noticing too. Is we have these regulatory agencies that have law enforcement capability, but they seem to choose not to enforce it. They'll say, "Oh, we don't have the manpower," but they've got the manpower to go do a drug sting, and they've got the manpower to go set up a fake deer and see if somebody will shoot at it. But when somebody's out breaking the law in something that they're not interested in, they don't have the manpower to take care of it. It's almost like they want the problem to happen.
Yeah, so they've got the manpower. Cody, you can shut me up anytime you want to, but they've got the manpower. We do some WMA hunts, and those WMA hunts sometimes the Blue Springs management area. Blue Springs management area is on the Connecticut National Forest, but it's part of a state management area down here. They'll bring somewhere between 15 and 25 game wardens. It's a dog hunt. They have two separate 2-day dog hunts a year on that management area. Well, they'll bring 15 to 25 game wardens down here like a swarm of bees, writing tickets or just enforce the law, whatever. And look, if you violate, you violate. And I ain't got no control over them writing a ticket, but and I don't care for that. It don't matter to me. But the point is, why can't they take that same 20 or 25 game wardens to Talladega National Forest and enforce the law? There's laws on the books. And they do the same exact thing at Geneva. Go ahead, Cody.
So we go to these advisory board meetings, and we have to sit and listen to these same landowners bring up their complaints to the advisory board and to the commissioners. And 90% of the things that they're complaining about, there's already laws on the book for that. And like Lonnie just said, we need enforcement to be there and to enforce the laws that are already on the book. And more than likely, that solves the problem. But they say they don't have the manpower.
I get that.
You mentioned a few minutes ago, you mentioned, what do we want the public to know?
Yes. What do you want them to know?
Here's what I would say that the public of Alabama needs to know Lonnie touched on this a little bit already. We have a commissioner that's appointed by the governor. He has 100% authority to set the season date, the bag limit, and creel limit. And the way he shut us down through all these years in certain areas or certain counties is that he sets that 0-day season. So we have the commissioner that's governor appointed, and you have the Conservation Advisory Board that is also governor appointed. And so the people of Alabama really have no avenue of recourse. Whatever these guys decide, that's what we got.
And they're political.
No avenue of recourse.
They're political appointees.
They are political. That's right, appointed by the governor.
By the governor.
And if you've got a governor that stays in place for 8 years, like we've had recently, then you're stuck with the same regulations. You're not going to change these guys' minds. You're stuck with their way of thinking for 8 years. And you go to your local politicians and you talk to them, your state representatives, state senators, and unless there's some way that they can politically put leverage on the appointed people, they can't do anything about it.
The legislature can always do something about it. They can pass a law. Yeah. They can pass a law. Then you got to get the governor to sign it. But I mean,
well, so 10 years ago when I became the president, I was, up there trying to get all the information I could get, and naturally we want a dog hunter on that board. We need representation.
Right.
Well, I asked Chuck Sykes again. I'm not throwing Chuck on the bus, and he's gone now. He's on the greener pastures. But the point is, this was exactly the way the conversation went. I said, Chuck, how do we get a dog hunter representation of a dog hunter on this board? And he said, Lonnie, you have to make a sizable campaign contribution to the government to be on that board. And it's all about money. And it's all about, if you go back and research who's on the board, there are very wealthy people that are on the board. And those wealthy people are basically pulling the strings. And they're not hunters. They may say they're duck hunters, and they may say they're turkey hunters and all this, but they're not hunters. They're not outdoors people. They're businessmen. They're very wealthy, the majority of them. And it's just not a fair shake. And Koty, you can talk to you about your experience and tell them about your 3,500 acres you're trying to hunt up there and what you were told that by the advisory board.
Yeah, going back to this permit system. This permit system is offered in either, and I've got it written down in the house somewhere, but it's either 15 or 17 different counties where they offer this permit system. And I live in a county. I'm a member of a hunting club, have been my whole life, pretty much. Grew up hunting here with my dad. But this hunting club meets every requirement for the permit system. I went for 3 consecutive years and requested at the Conservation Advisory Board meeting, requested that the department offer me the permit that's currently being offered in these 15 other counties. And I laid it all out. I mean, I gave them maps of the property, all the information they needed. And I requested this for 3 consecutive years and got basically no response, basically blank stares. The only response that I ever got was that if they granted me this request, that it would set a precedent. So at my next opportunity to speak, which was probably at the next meeting, I laid out the precedent that they are setting by denying me this permit. You think about it, they're allowing it in 15 other counties, but they deny it right here. What kind of precedent does that set? In my eyes, that's not a good precedent. And again, you get blank stares, no response. And so, yeah, that's what I've been dealing with for the past 2 years. We had a private meeting, me and Lonnie, a couple of legislators, and the DCNR personnel. I think that was last October. And I brought that up face to face with the commissioner. I just happened to be the one that sat beside him at the table, and he had a map out. And I said, sir, you allow this permit system right here in this county. I've requested it for 3 years in a row, right here in this county, directly south. I said, you tell me what's fair about you allowing this permit system here, but you don't allow it here. And right there in front of those legislative people, the rest of his staff, and me and Lonnie, I got a blank stare. No response. They know it ain't right what they're doing, but they don't care to come up with a solution that works for everybody. And me and Lonnie's had this discussion often. Me and Lonnie have ideas. The folks of our association have ideas. We could put a system in place that would work for the hunters, for the property owners, for everybody. But the problem we have is that we have a DCNR department that does not care to fix the problem. They don't care to come up with a solution.
Sounds like to me that you haven't made a big enough campaign contribution.
Well,
Oh, that's probably right. We're trying to do that, but yeah. Well, they want to shut it down. So this week, so Todd, we have representation in 40 of the 67 counties in the state of Alabama. So we've got members in 40 of the 67 counties. And I want to say we have 9 chapters now, and in about 20 of the counties. So some of the counties are combined, like Koty, that chapter up north. The further north you go in Alabama, the less dog clubs you have. So we basically combine several counties, and there may be 5 or 6 in this chapter, or 2 or whatever. But this week, my Shelby County president, Jimmy McDonald, called Brock Jones, who's an advisory board member in his area, and was talking to him about this permit going in place, but about how trying to get him to vote no on it. And Brock Jones, the cab member, said, Jimmy, the hunters that are doing it right, I'm gonna paraphrase, but he basically said the hunters that are doing it right are guilty by association. That came from the cab member. And it's a bunch of crap. We just don't. What you said a while ago, Todd, you're right. The legislators can vote. They can put laws in place, but it won't be for this coming year. In other words, once they get the permit in place, they never rescind the permit. They never take it back. So the point being, yes, they do make laws, and yes, they can. And the new commissioner, I talked to Grady Hartzog. Grady Hartzog is my cab member for my district. We have 2 in my district, Kevin Savoy and Grady Hartzog. I've requested a meeting with both of them. But I talked to Grady, and Grady's and Lonnie, and he's on our side, I believe, as much as he can be. He definitely is not for the permit. We have 2 of those cab members that we won and gained respect. We won their trust. Jeff Martin and Grady Hartzog. The third guy that I was telling you about, Kevin Savoy, I'm not sure if you have ever heard of the Yellowwood pressure treated material company, lumber, but his father-in-law is the owner of that. And so he's a big anti-dog hunter from the get-go because they don't like dog hunting, period. And so, we know where his votes are going to be. And I want to look him in the eyes, because he's the one that made the motion that recommended putting us on a permit system. And it's just not fair. It ain't right. I have filed a freedom of information. I want to know how many warnings we had, how many complaints, how many warnings, how many tickets. where they were at by county and what they were for, and that will truly tell us this is where the spots are. This is the actual problem, and then it'll tell us if we have a problem or not. Which I'm going to tell you, Todd, we don't have a problem. Now, like I did speak to those folks in Talladega County that say they have a problem, and I do know if a hunting dog is on your land, you got a problem. But as far as a general rule, we feel like there's somewhere between 200 and 400 people a day hunting on the Talladega National Forest. So if we just say 300 people on a 50-day season, that's 15,000 people. And you got less than 50 complaints on 15,000 hunts, you ain't really got a problem.
That's less than 1%. That's small.
Right. And this is very minuscule. But again, if it's your land that's got the dogs on it, I understand you have an issue. But we talked about it a little while, a few minutes ago, get the game wardens to go over and write the dadgum tickets, They have that authority. They have the authority to do that.
So something that I've been saying for about 15 years is respect your neighbor, be kind to your neighbor, be nice to your neighbor, help your neighbor. And as it goes with the dogs, and I'm not talking about just deer hunting with dogs, I'm talking about hunting with dogs, period. That's
right.
If you turn your dog loose and my dog's barking at something. If you turn your dog loose and your dog ends up on your neighbor's property once or twice, that's a mistake. It's an accident. And we should be able to shake hands and not worry about an accident. But if every time you drop the tailgate and turn loose, your dog's on your neighbor's property, that's a problem. That's not a mistake. That's a bad habit. And that's something that shouldn't happen. I don't think I have yet to talk to anyone that's demanding to be able to run their dog on somebody else's property. Not one person has told me that that's their goal. But that's the number one complaint that I hear from the other side, is that you just want to hunt my land for free. So I've also noticed that.
Todd, I'm going to tell you.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to tell you, I can't prove this, but I can prove this happened. So we got a dog hunter killed year before last in Talladega National Forest. Where the problem's at, by the way. A dog hunter 2 years ago, he killed 150 something inch buck in front of his dogs. This is all how he killed the deer. I can't tell you. I just know he's in the picture with dogs and a deer. This past year, the same guy killed 173 inch buck in the state of Alabama on the Talladega National Forest. And it's hunting near where these people are having the problem with the alleged, I'm going to say alleged problem with the dogs. Again, I can't prove this, but what I think it is, I think those people are peed off because somebody else killed 173 inch deer that they've been raising or been looking at for all them years, and it's dead.
His name was probably Timmy.
And they want to put a stop to it.
The deer was probably named Timmy. They probably had him named something, Timmy.
Yeah, probably. But the point, I can't prove that. But like I told you, I can prove the pictures. I've got the pictures of the 173 inch deer, and I heard the story. Allegedly what dog hunters were saying, but also those guys that came and speaking against dog hunting at the cab spoke about trophy deer being killed by the dog hunter.
If the man took a deer,
I know that's part of it.
If a man took a deer legally, so be it. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask the question. I sort of know the way I do it. Let me just tell you about me. I'll take a guest hunting. We've got several thousand acres, and we own some of it and we lease some of it. So we actually own acreage. But I'll take a guest hunting. I'll put them in my truck, take them to the hunting club, take them hunting. and put them in the best position they can to take the nicest deer on the club. And if they do, the only thing I'm going to say to them is congratulations.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, that guest on our club, when they go out there, the only thing they can take is a rack buck. It's got a rack buck. It's got a fork above its ears. So it could be a 4-pointer, but it's got a fork above its ears. And if I take that guest, I'm going to take them out there and do my best to put them somewhere where they can get a deer that's even better than that. Cause I don't care. You guys were telling me when you took your first one, I took my first one at 5 years old with a 410 shotgun in front of dogs. Sitting on the corner of the dog box in my daddy's lap. That dog box right now is on my son-in-law's truck. We still got it. So, I've been doing this a little while. I'm from North Carolina. I've lived all over the world. Like I said, I was in Texas in 1990. I've been everywhere. I sound like a podunk redneck, I reckon. But I've been a bunch of places, done a bunch of things. So, but this meeting here is not about me. But I did want to throw in there that I'm not trying. I'm not asking. I'm not demanding. I'm not asking. I'm not even saying it's right for people to try and run the dogs on other people's property. Not what I'm looking at. Not what I'm looking for. And I haven't talked to anybody that says that that's what they want. And I let you guys talk, and you told me when we first started talking that was exactly what you were about, that you were not about hunting other people's land. That's not what this is about.
We don't do it.
But that seems to
I'm
be
not going to tell you people don't do it, but we don't do it. So for 10 years, for 8 years, we've been doing a hunt down the Geneva State Forest management area. And it's a public hunt. Koty mentioned coming to South Alabama. Koty he drives how many hours, Koty? 5.5 hours?
That's right.
Yeah, Koty drives 5.5 hours to come down and hunt with us on that hunt. So basically what happens is that the Alabama Dog Hunters Association puts on this public hunt on a management area. It's through the state, but we do it at our own expense. It's a quota hunt. It's all over the state, wherever anybody else that wants to apply for it can apply for it and get picked for it, 100 standards. And we do that for 2 days. We run the dogs for 2 days. We pay for our own fuel, the dogs, and we don't mind doing that. We're doing everything we can do in conjunction with the state to put this hunt on. And we love this hunt. The dog hunters do. Because it will absolutely sort out the hot from the real dogs. If you start running them 2 days in a row for 6 hours, 3 hours each, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, you'll sort the dogs out.
Right, I got you.
But at the end of the day, we are doing, we do a youth hunt, the same thing in a youth hunt, by the way. And I think there's 75 kids. We had 55 or so last year that came. But, it's open to the public. We want that. And let's talk about kids for a minute. We probably have somewhere between 500, and I know this is going to be a big range, but somewhere between 500 and 1,000 kids all over the state at our chapter hunt and at the state hunt down here that we just talked about. The DCNR people don't want to recognize that. We give away lifetime hunting licenses. We have all kinds of just, gift packages for the kids. We feed them, make a big deal out of it. But all this, and this is me, again, I can't prove this, but the state just sees that as, we're breeding more dog hunters. There they are, they ain't never going to stop. And they the Alabama, they always mention, if you go to Outdoor Alabama, you'll see the 3R, the retain, I don't know whatever the 3R stands for, but basically get kids involved. But they don't want us included in that. They don't want to include the dog hunters in that stuff or whatever. And we've tried, and And we know good and well that a kid, anybody that goes hunting, that has ever dog hunted, knows that the dog hunting is the way you introduce to a kid to hunting. And eventually, just like I do, when dog season goes out, I put my dogs up and I go still hunting. And Koty does the same thing. He's got four or five kids. But a kid, I've got a grandson that's 6, and we took him. My grandson, my son-in-law wanted to wait until he was 6 to let him kill his first deer, make sure he was mature enough to do it, big enough. He's smaller in stature. We took him a few times this year. I took him twice. My daughter took him. His daddy took him. But it got to where he hated going still hunting. He said, I ain't going back. I don't want to go back. I want to go dog hunting.
It's boring to him.
I said, why is that? I said, Walt, why is that? He said, because it's just, I got to be still. I can't move. I can't do nothing. When I'm dog hunting, I can just be myself. But eventually it's going to be a maturity level where he'll mature and understand what that's about, and he'll get back to the still hunting. It's got, but the point is, we know, the three of us know that it's a good thing, but the state of Alabama is not for that at all. They don't want a kid doing it. And,
so take a kid,
take
a kid hunting with hounds, because the whole world's trying to take it away from them.
Right, pretty much. That's what I believe. Right here.
Well, guys, we got about 2 more minutes, and I got to wrap up.
Okay.
You guys want to give me your closing information? Tell me what you want to say in your closing statements.
Here, Koty, I'll let you wrap it up if you want to, because I've done most of the talking. Wrap it up, Koty.
I got you. All right. This would be great to finish this out, I think. We've talked about what we want the public to know. What I'm fixing to read you would be great along those lines. And we just got done with a conversation about kids and preserving the future of hunting. What I'm about to read you will also apply to that. This is in the Alabama Constitution, Article 1, Section 36.02. This is known as the Sportsperson's Bill of Rights. It says the people have the right to hunt, fish, and harvest wildlife, including by the use of traditional methods, subject to reasonable regulations, to promote wildlife conservation and management, and to preserve the future of hunting and fishing. That's the first 2 or 3 lines of what's known as the Sportsperson's Bill of Rights. So the people need to know that we have a right in our Constitution to hunt by traditional methods. Hunting with a dog is absolutely a traditional method. That is well documented. When our people first came over and settled this country from whatever country they came from, they brought their hunting dogs with them. All that's documented. So hunting with a dog is without a doubt a traditional method. We have the right to do that in accordance with our Constitution. And you're talking about the kids and preserving the future of hunting. That's in this, the Sportsperson's Bill of Rights. That last line that I read you said to preserve the future of hunting and fishing. Well, if we're going to preserve that, we've got to get the kids involved. And we have proven that hunting with dogs is a great way to get the kids involved. And so the DCNR should be supporting us and helping us, because what we're doing is preserving hunting, but yet they're fighting us. Well, that'd be my closing statement.
All right. Well, guys, one more time, give your names and who you are.
Lonnie Miller, Alabama Dog Hunters Association President.
Koty McCarley, Vice President of the Alabama Dog Hunters Association.
Guys, thanks for talking to me today. You've given me some good information. Make sure you follow the page and share your information with me. Send me direct messages or text messages or emails, but get the information to me that you want me to put out, and I'll make sure it gets listed.
I sure appreciate you, Todd. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.